DaVinci Resolve for an iPad is a pretty weird thing. I know that I'm extremely late with this video, 1.5 months ago, maybe even more. DaVinci Resolve was officially released for an iPad. A month before that, DaVinci was sent to beta testers and every one of those shared their opinion with you, so everyone who wanted to watch something about DaVinci Resolve for an iPad has already done that. But I'm making this video anyways. Why haven't I done this video earlier? Well, I have a decent enough excuse. I didn't have an iPad that was able to launch DaVinci Resolve at all. And that is the first thing you need to consider. DaVinci Resolve was designed and written and developed for M1 and M2 chips specifically. If you have an older iPad, sometimes it can be launched, but with some sacrifices, with some restrictions. Ideally, you have to have an M1 or M2 chip. Finally, I have an M2 chip iPad with an M2 chip, and I'm finally making this video. So we're going to have a look at how DaVinci Resolve handles some footage, some raw footage, and at the end of this video I'm going to show you how to open all of the pages, because by default there are only 2 pages available when you launch DaVinci Resolve. The cut page that I really hate, and the color page that I really love. So let's fire up the DaVinci Resolve and have a look at it. Probably you're going to edit and calibrate the footage of an SSD. But I transferred my example footage to an iPad, and here is the reason why. When I connected an SSD and left my iPad for some time and let it fall asleep, it didn't want to wake up at all. I had to reset it. So, to avoid that, I transferred my example footage to an iPad, and today we're going to have a look at that. So let's fire up the DaVinci Resolve and let's import some footage. As far as I understand, you can import some footage only using the cut page, which I truly hate. So let's import the footage that I have and let's go to the color page. The first thing we need to do in the color page is to set our settings, and typically I set my color management manually. I set every single parameter manually, but today this is not the objective of the video, so we're going to leave everything as DaVinci color managed, and everything should be set automatically, because I do not really care about color management in this particular video. So let's click save, and our footage is going to look like Rec 709 footage, like it usually does, because DaVinci takes care of everything automatically. Let's go to the raw tab and change our color temperature to 3200 if I'm not mistaken. When I was working on this project, yeah, 3200 looks okay. So let's have a look at our first note. Let's do our basic corrections using primaries to up some highlights, to reduce some midtones and so on and so forth, the regular stuff. Now let's try to add a note. When we add in a note on a PC or a Mac, we're using the shortcut Alt-S, or we just right click and select add note and just choose which note we want to add. Here we cannot right click and we cannot use a shortcut, so we're going to navigate to this symbol that is looking like it is a note, and if you hold that, it's going to give you an option: add serial, add parallel, or add a layer note. If you just click it, it's going to add a serial note. But the problem is I do not really see the outside note, for example, and this is kind of sad, because what's the problem? You could have included the outside note, which is kind of really useful. But anyways, let's add a serial note and let's try some effects. Bear in mind that this is a free version. I'm not going to pay for the paid version, because I do not really want to edit all of my footage and to color grade on an iPad, because this is some sort of a masochist thing. Anyways, let's add a serial note and let's add an effect that is free. For example, glow effect. Let's change some parameters and let's see how that iPad handles the footage. It handles it perfectly. Who would have doubted that? So let's add another note and let's do some qualification. We use qualifier, and when we start using it, it's like always, we do not really see what we are doing, so we need to use a magic wand. For some reason, the symbol that is used for that is changed. It is this symbol instead of a magic one. So let's engage that and see what we are doing with the key. So let's refine our key and let's use a power window to further refine it and to exclude some of the background elements. Now let's track it. Let's track it back and forth. Surprisingly, iPad is really quick at that and has no problem whatsoever tracking a power window or just handling that qualification. If you play that footage, it plays really nicely, no problem whatsoever. Now let's create an outside note. Unfortunately, I didn't find a way how you can create that like in the full version of DaVinci Resolve that was designed for PC. But we're going to simulate that and we're going to create an outside note manually. We're going to create a serial note, connect those key, output and input, and we're going to invert the second note. This way we are creating an outside note, but I do not really understand why an outside note is not included in this list. A strange thing. So let's move the color of our background to something greenish bluish to make this image pop. So let's add another node and add a layer node to that. We're going to mimic some blooming effect, a very cheap one actually. So let's reduce the saturation of the bottom node to 0 and let's throw a Gaussian blur on it. Now we need to reduce the impact of this node, and now we need to change the blending parameter, which is kinda wonky considering that we have to do that with a pencil. And it's not really that convenient. So as you can see, an iPad handles DaVinci Resolve and raw footage really nicely. That M2 chip is really powerful, so there is no problem in here whatsoever. Unfortunately, I do not really understand how you can color grade on or edit footage in here for series, because the screen, the real estate of the screen is really small, so I do not really see the details that I want to see. If you're using a 12.9-inch iPad, probably it is much easier, but anyways, it is too small. Even on my 34-inch ultrawide monitor, sometimes it is difficult to see, so I expand the footage to the whole screen to see the finer details and what I'm doing with them. I do not really understand how we can use a 12.9 or an 11-inch screen of an iPad to fine-tune or to color grade something. It is kind of nonsense. But if you're traveling, if you have no access to your computer, and if you're traveling offline for 8 to 10 hours in a plane, or you're just unable to reach your PC, maybe this is a good way to develop certain look or to create a quick edit or to do something like that. Maybe it is useful. But anyways, it is up to you to decide. And now I'm going to show you how you can enable all of the pages inside of DaVinci Resolve for iPad, because they are all here, they are just hidden. For that, you're gonna need to use a keyboard, something like that. This is Logitech K380 that I'm going to use right now. I'm going to turn it on and connect it to my iPad. And nothing will happen because we need to restart our DaVinci Resolve. After DaVinci Resolve has been restarted, we need to press Alt Command K. If your keyboard does not have a Command K, my condolences, because you're gonna need one. So press Alt Command K and a window is going to pop up, Keyboard Customization. We're gonna go to the bottom of this window and find this particular setting, Show Pages. And now we're going to assign the shortcut that is going to be used for every page to appear and disappear. In my particular case, it is Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3, and so on and so forth, in order how they appear in the full version of DaVinci Resolve. Now click Save. Now, if we click Shift 3, for example, we're going to see that the edit page has appeared, and we finally can use some good old edit page instead of this ugly cut page. Why didn't they include these pages right from the start? Why do we have to do that thing to unlock them? I have two versions, two theories. The first one is that they are working on optimization. And once the optimization is done, they're going to include them. Once the DaVinci Resolve has been updated, those pages are going to appear and they're going to finish optimizing them. The second version is that they just transferred the full version of DaVinci Resolve inside of an iPad, but they didn't want to cut out the code itself. They just hid the pages. They did not plan to include them, so they just hid them from us, and they just left us with the cut page and with the color page. Anyways, those pages are available, you can use them, you can unlock them, and now DaVinci Resolve is looking much more compelling compared to the previous version that contained only the cut page and the color page. So in the comments below, tell me what you think about DaVinci Resolve for an iPad, whether you're going to use it, is it worth it, and how convenient it is. And thank you for watching, thank you for being here, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.